Here we go. All right, guys. So my name is Sweta Iyer, Master Healer and Chakra Specialist. And as you guys know, we are beaming live from Nadya's camera. So I wanted you guys to know something that, one of the things we want to address today is alternatives. Like, are you guys looking for alternatives to what you're doing in your life right now? And this is not about you wanting to have to follow this. It's just for you to know that there are ways to shift things in your life. And I think this is why this interview is very exciting for me. I have never really spoken about this publicly either. So for me, this is the first time. And I'm very excited to have the Mastermind Spotlight with Nadya Hewitt, who is the Selfish Revolution coach. And we will talk to her in just about a second. So Nadya, why don't you introduce yourself real quick to get the recording going?
Hey everyone, my name is Nadya Hewitt. I am a selfish coach. Selfish equals self-focus, and I empower you to live a life in your highest good. And Selfish Revolution was birthed from my experience, not only with energy work, but the life-changing experiences that I had after radically 180ing my life with energy work, with diet, with complete lifestyle changes. And out of that came Selfish Revolution, because once I started focusing on myself, I started seeing all of these amazing opportunities in my life start unfolding. So that is what we are going to discuss further today. My journey with energy work and how it has greatly impacted my life.
Okay, well, I think this is a very exciting topic because if you haven't heard of the show called The Healer, it's coming on TLC. So if you want to get a more mainstream sort of bird's view about what energy healing does, you can always tune into a mainstream TV show. So Nadya, why don't you take us through what happened when you were actually diagnosed? Where were you actually in your life when you were diagnosed with MS?
Sure. So when I was diagnosed in my life with MS, my life was in complete chaos. I was living in San Francisco. I was trying my best to survive in San Francisco. I didn't really live in San Francisco. I survived in San Francisco. I was constantly worried about money. I was constantly worried about work. I was constantly worried about everything in my environment because I always felt like I was at the brink of having everything fall apart. And it's been going on for 3 years at that point, or 2 years at that point. And I was desperately trying to figure out how I was going to make this work, how I was going to make my life work. And I started feeling certain symptoms health-wise months prior to that. I was really confused by it because I didn't understand what was going on with my body. But I just kind of, like I said, I was really afraid of everything falling apart. So I kind of just ignored it until my body was screaming at me. I started feeling some headaches. I had a symptom called optic neuritis. And basically what that is the optic nerve becomes inflamed and it affects your vision. So this had happened to me before, but my MS was not diagnosed. This particular incident, it had affected my right eye, and I realized that this was a pattern. So I went to the doctor, started getting the tests and all of that. Very, very routine stuff that I had done before. But this time my doctor requested that I get the MRI. And I'm always confused, you guys. Someone please correct me. The MRI and the CAT scan, I think it's the MRI where they put you in the tube and they take a bunch of pictures of your head and it's so loud. And so I remember the weekend before I went and had this test done, I was actually going to cancel the test. And it was almost like divinely guided that I was allowed to have this very big send off to my old lifestyle. I was going out, I was partying, I had a friend come over. I mean, we just had a really great time. And this test was on Sunday. And on Sunday I said, I'm not going to take the test. I've had too much fun the night before. I need to rest. And something pushed me out of the bed, you guys. Something pushed me out of the bed to go and take this test. I mean, this is not a test you want to take on a Sunday. 45 minutes to an hour and a half, God knows how long, in a tube, taking pictures. So I went and took the test. And that was on Sunday. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I got the results on Wednesday. And Sunday to Wednesday, I started having a feeling, this very tingling feeling. It feels like your foot is falling asleep. And I had it go from my foot to my ankle to mid-calf and then fully up my leg. And that's when my doctor called on Wednesday and said, hey, Nadya, I need to tell you something. We looked at your results. You are 100%, you 100% have multiple sclerosis. We can see what's going on in the neck and your brain, and this is like actually happening. This time I knew that this was MS because I felt the feeling not only get worse, but I also felt in my body. You know, when someone says something to you and you feel in your body beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is true. So I knew that it was true. And I basically walked into work that day and I told my boss, and I didn't anticipate, but I had a complete breakdown in my boss's office. And I was let go early that day to obviously process this. And I remember I walked to the pier at San Francisco Pier, and I sat by the water and I said, I don't know what to do. I can't do this. Like, at that point, everything in my life was chaos. You know, I had lost my mom a couple of years prior, suddenly. I had lost a friend a couple of years suddenly prior. Had been laid off in San Francisco, going on, you know, I think at that point I had been laid off twice from jobs that I was desperately trying to seek. It was just a very low point in my life, and this was the cherry on top, and I just said, I give up. I can't do it.
So it sounds like there was a lot going on, and then the MS happened, and it kind of was like the cherry on the top.
Absolutely.
So what sort of brought you into seeking answers?
I had a moment with myself. I actually had to, coincidentally, but not coincidentally, right? I was going home to do a memorial for my mother. My mom died in August. I was diagnosed in August, and it was literally days before I was traveling home to Maryland to go and be with my family, to go and, you know, celebrate the life of my mom. And on that trip, I decided that I was going to fight for what I wanted. I actually decided before I got on the plane, but that trip fully got me into deciding that I actually wanted to try to figure out my life. This was after talking to maybe a few family members, and this was actually after asking myself, you've come so far, nothing seems to be working out right. Is it ever going to work out right?
That's a tough one. So what did that feel like?
That making the decision to continue?
Yeah.
It felt heavy. It felt heavy because I didn't know what I was really walking into. And I didn't really know what I was giving myself a chance for.
Had you ever met anyone who had MS?
No.
So what did you know about them?
Honestly, I researched MS for the first time that day.
Wow. So you didn't even know what this condition was. And you guys, I obviously don't know every condition in the book. So, you know, I think that's exactly what happened. So that's really actually powerful. So you were diagnosed with something that you didn't even know existed.
Nope.
So what did you find when you did your research? That
I found two types of MS. There was the relapsing remitting, which I had, and then there was also the progressive. And at the time I was told that I had relapsing remitting, which, I mean, if anyone on here knows anything about MS, relapsing remitting means it shows up, it goes away, it shows up, it goes away. It's kind of like a random, uninvited party guest.
Mm-hmm.
Progressive means that it's sitting on you and it's steadily moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting, at the time when I was diagnosed, it felt like it was sitting on me because I was dealing with the symptoms, I was dealing with the discomfort, and I was also dealing with the shock and trauma of being told that information.
So how did you hear about energy work? How did you come into contact with that?
So I had done a Reiki session with a practitioner years before.
Mm-hmm.
When my mom suddenly passed away, I sought for myself personal help and therapies and alternative therapies to help me deal with that grief. And so I was very open to alternative therapies, but a friend of mine at the time called me and said, look, this is a desperate situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're open to. I don't know what your beliefs are, but I just went to this woman who is an energy healer, and she knew things about me that I could have never, ever told anyone in my life. You should go. And I didn't even hesitate. I said, you know what? Desperate times don't call for desperate measures. I have a disease that I've only heard about maybe on the Discovery Channel. Let's go for this. And that is how I first started with my energy session.
So I'm guessing the woman is me. So that's the climax. No, I'm just kidding. So I think it's really powerful. One of my so Nadia came to me in my first year of my doing this business. Now I've been doing it 10 years prior to that, so I did have experience, but it was my first year of my business. So I remember when she walked in the door, what I said to myself, I did have a few other people who had some very serious illnesses. But for me, chronic illness was something that I said, okay, if it's shown up, let's see why it's shown up. Because when you start to understand the mind-body connection, it is a radical shift in your life. So why don't you describe what your first meeting was, or what you, I think this is a good one.
So I've told this story before, but I'm going to share it with you guys. I really thought that energy playing was like, Shweta was going to sit at like a crystal ball, and she was going to tell me like, okay, you're having a really hard time right now. You are, going through this difficult time with MS, but you're going to get through it. You're going to get a man, like you're going to have this beautiful home. Like that's what I kind of thought. I thought this was going to be like more of a fortune tell thing. So I show up to, at the time, this woman's apartment, and I sit down, and she has this presence about her, and I was seated down, and I'm like, fine. And she says to me, she looks at me with this look of certainty, and she goes, Nadia, a woman's here. She's dressed in a red coat. She's about your height, a little bit shorter, and she wants you to know that you're safe, and she wants you to know that you are in the right place. Do you know this woman? And I started bursting out crying. Do you guys know who that woman is? That woman was my mother. That woman was my mother. She was dressed in her favorite red coat with her glasses, and she was directing me, as she always does. And that's how I knew that this was not going to be a fortune-telling session. This was something very, very serious.
And it's very fascinating to hear, because the information is so channeled and it's so guided by Kali, and that's who I work with. She's one of the goddesses from the Hindu pantheon, but anyone can work with her. She's incredibly powerful, incredibly transformational. And I think I always, when I hear the first meetings with my clients, it's always a very fascinating experience, because there's something so much bigger than our own sort of understanding of what's going on. So I wasn't trying to understand Nadia's MS. I was trying to understand why she was in her life where she was. And I think that is very powerful. Why are we where we are? I want to say something. I want to kind of fast forward just a quick second from that first session to where she's now. Well, you look great. So
thank you.
How is the MS doing at this point, from that first session to where you're now?
I have not had any MS symptoms.
Okay.
I have not had any MS flare-ups.
Okay.
And I have not had any of what I would call the oppressive symptoms of MS.
Would you say it's unusual when you get diagnosed with something like MS? Because that's been something that once I researched it, I understood that yes.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So I just want to add something in the energy context. When you have a disease like MS, because when you connect it to your chakras, it is your seventh chakra. It's a seventh chakra symptom, because it is where it's seventh and sixth chakra. So it's your sixth chakra is your intuition, and your seventh chakra is your connection to the divine. So when those are blocked or they are in chaos, they will show up in physical symptoms as chronic illnesses.
Yeah.
So when you work on those, and it's not just as simple, and that's why we're going to go back and get into her journey. Mm-hmm. It's not just as simple as just working on your chakras. There's a bunch of different things you do. However, when you start to understand that at the core of who you are is energy, you can really sort of start navigating your reality to where you want it to be. Because a lot of us have believed and decided that the only thing that is happening right now is what it looks like. My bank balance is what it looks like. My house is what it looks like. My relationship is what it looks like. My health is what it looks like. Everything is just stagnant. Everything is just this just constant, how would you say? It's just this stuck sort of quantity. There's no movement ever. When you start to understand energy, you start to understand everything in flow. So what happened then after that first session, once you had it? Like, what happened? How did you start to understand your MS? What happened?
I started to understand that my MS is not just something that occurred.
Okay.
in my body.
Okay.
I started to see MS as a knot that I could either start undoing, or it was a knot that could keep exacerbating and growing in my body. And that comes through the physical body with symptoms, with flare-ups, with fatigue, et cetera, et cetera. So when I started to understand that my MS was actually a knot that was notifying me of some things that were triggered by issues in my environment, I started to see my MS as an alarm clock and not just this physical heaviness that I could not do anything with.
Would you say you weren't as scared of your MS when you actually heard it for the first time? Because it sounds like you felt more empowered to navigate it rather than feeling like this was a done deal.
That was a huge shift for me, going from feeling like a victim to now feeling like I was in control. I think when I was first diagnosed, I felt like this was happening to me. And when I went through with my first energy session, I realized that this was something that was happening to me, but also something that I could navigate. Something that I could actually turn into working for me, because I could now take this issue and start fixing things that were in my life.
How has this shifted your life?
Completely.
Okay.
Completely.
So give us some sort of outcomes of what you have gone through.
So I think in my life in general, at the time when I had my energy session, my MS was something that came at me big and hardcore at the time, but everything in my life started to make me feel like it was happening to me. Everything felt like it was happening to me. Me getting laid off from my job was happening to me. Me not having a certain amount of money was happening to me. Everything was happening to me, and I constantly felt like I was attacked. I constantly felt like my life hated me, basically.
Let me just pause you there. I want you guys to take a second, because I'm sure you've had that moment where you feel like your life hates you. I think that's really powerful, because your life is the only life you can live. You can't live in someone else's life as much as you'd like to. I mean, I've wanted to do that. But what do you do when your life hates you? So that's interesting. So you felt, how do you then sort of navigate that?
Energy work gave me a toolbox. So when I had my first energy session, that was me taking out a toolbox. And with the energy sessions after that, I started putting tools into my toolbox.
Okay.
So that when life showed up and said, hey, I hate you today. You're going to be stuck in traffic for 4 hours. You're going to wake up 4 hours late from work. You're going to not have a good day where you feel well. I'm going to give that to you as your life. I now could go back to my toolbox and say, hey, I know that this isn't being done to me. What tool can I use to go in my toolbox and start looking at a closer look at this situation?
So what's interesting to me is we have, and this is something else I wanted to kind of bring up. We have talked about the secret. We've talked about how we do attract things into our life. So you sound very empowered when you're talking about how you started to understand. So what's the difference? What's the difference when you understand sort of the basic law of attraction principle than really seeing what it actually does to your life?
I think for me, the difference between going from the secret to energy work was, the secret is a great foundation, I think, to give you, hey, you do have control over your environment. Your thoughts do control your environment. But if you don't know how to navigate your thoughts, if you don't know how to tune your thoughts, if you don't know how to direct your thoughts, you can constantly feel like you not manifesting something is a direct reflection of your self-esteem.
So it's a vicious
cycle. It's a vicious cycle. Who's had that experience? I had that experience when I first watched The Secret. I was like, okay, I want to manifest money because I had just gotten out of college. I was like, great, money. And then the money that I wanted to manifest wasn't happening. So then I thought, okay, this doesn't work and I'm just effective. And that was the end of it.
So that's hilarious. I mean, I'm going to say it's hilarious because I've been there, right? And I think every single time we get into this place where it's your fault, I always say walk away from what makes you feel like it's your fault. And what I mean by that is not that you don't take ownership, but as in blaming. The blame game, which keeps you paralyzed and stuck, that's the part I'm talking about being done with. Taking ownership means you can actually shift. Blaming yourself means you're just going to sit there and feel shitty about yourself. You have to take ownership to move forward. So you took ownership, it sounds like, and you're able to start navigating. So what happened to your lifestyle as a result?
My life started to shift dramatically. relationships that I had with people who were very comfortable with me in the yes phase of my life.
What do you mean by the yes phase?
The yes phase meaning I'm always okay. I was always the happy-go-lucky friend in my friend group. I was always the chill one, the one that was down for everything,
Right.
which is a very big part of my personality. The only problem is this was constantly a constant habit where I was always chill and I was always okay. I was always giving that. I wasn't receiving that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I also learned in energy is that there is an energetic exchange.
Okay.
You can't always be the one giving, saying yes, and always the one down for everything and always the one navigating through that if you're not going to reciprocate or receive that on some level.
So do you feel like, what happened with your MS? Like, do you feel like what was the energy exchange with the MS, if you would say?
I would say the energetic exchange with the MS was actually looking at the key pieces in my environment that were exacerbating the MS and being very honest and being very forthcoming with how they could no longer interact with my life. And those unfortunately came in the form of people, some of them. Some of those came in the form of people.
And it's interesting to me because one of the things that I think, when you get on a path, whatever your path is, okay? But when you get on a path, one of the things that's interesting to me is you do go through shifts in your life. Now, I know personally I've gone vegan and I've been vegan for almost under 2 years, but I'm a pretty strict vegan, I think, by all accounts. So why don't we hear about what your lifestyle changes were?
First lifestyle change is I desperately wanted to attack my MS holistically. I saw my mom go through cancer chemotherapy, and I just did not like the way in which she felt afterward. And so I knew for myself going forward, I wanted to try to treat this as holistically as possible. So that was the first thing that came forward with my energy healing. I was aligned with a doctor that wanted to take me through that journey and did take me through that journey. So I became 100% clean. I ate only vegetables. I ate very, very healthy, clean meats. And I started cooking basically every single meal that I had. Wellness started to interact with every aspect of my life, from when I woke up in the morning to when I went to sleep at night.
What is wellness when you say wellness?
I think wellness for myself is an assessment of my environment and my mental space, and the self-care is the action that you take to take that assessment and take action to actually implement those changes. So wellness and self-care became the main core of my lifestyle. I was always very aware, very much checking in with what I needed and being very vocal with that. And that's not something that I did before. If I needed something, I would kind of put myself to the wayside to make someone else comfortable, or I just wouldn't say anything. And this was for the first time Nadya saying like, hey, I can't do this. I can't go out tonight. I can't do X, Y, and Z, and having to be steadfast and very confident in that.
So is that sort of how your business sort of came about?
Absolutely.
So why don't we hear a little bit more about that?
So Selfish Revolution came from that, because in Selfish Revolution, what I teach are 3 main categories: how to create healthy boundaries, how to speak your truth, and how to listen to your body. And that is exactly, if I could sum up, my journey with MS, that's exactly it. I had to start speaking my truth to people. I could no longer hide and say that everything was okay and that I could do everything, because I couldn't. My body would not let me do that. I had to create healthy boundaries with people that I had. Absolutely, Dina, absolutely. I had to create healthy boundaries because I didn't really have a lot of boundaries. I didn't have a lot, and people that were very close to me, I didn't really hold them to a lot of boundaries. So there was a lot of free-for-all going on, and I had to start laying those down. And lastly, listening to my body. Because I was now tuned into my body for the first time in my life, I was having to listen to it when it said, hey, I don't want to eat that. Hey, I don't want to interact with that. Hey, I don't want to go there. And that was very foreign for me, because I had always just overrode everything based on how things look and how I want to deal with it. Now I had to include my body in the equation.
So what is Selfish Revolution? And where are you exactly with Selfish Revolution now? Like what are you up to with it?
So Selfish Revolution to me, and if someone asked me one word, it's truth. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You are speaking your truth on all levels. And where I am right now with Selfish Revolution, I'm in this amazing space because now that I have come forward with this gift and talked about it, I feel like my brand is just blossoming. I'm getting messages from people who want to interact, and I'm getting messages of love from people who are like, I'm so glad you're talking about this. I have no idea. So I feel like now my brand is taking on a new phase because I've also taken on this phase.
So isn't selfish like a bad thing? That's what people think about selfish. So why don't you explain to us? Because it sounds like you went from having MS to now saying you're being selfish. So what does that mean?
So selfish equals self-focus. And the idea, the idea behind being selfish and selfish revolution is you have to give oxygen to yourself before you give it to another. It's like the plane safety video that we all see. You have to give yourself oxygen if you're going to assist anybody around you. And that's in life as well. You have to make sure that you are okay and that you are giving what you have. If you're not giving what you have, you're in an energetic deficit. And an energetic deficit leads to disruption of disease.
And it's interesting when you fly. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have like flown recently, but they'll always say if the flight is about to go down, don't give the oxygen to even your child. But make sure to have it. Yeah. And then so it sounds sort of similar to that. That's the analogy that I feel like I can relate to. So, okay. So you're in this, when you say this gift, is it the gift of having a relationship with yourself, you would say?
Absolutely.
And why don't we touch a little bit about the Divine Mother or the goddess energy, because that is a big part of the energy work that we have worked through. So what do you think that sort of represents for you? And how would you describe the goddess energy?
Love. Okay. I would describe it as love. I would describe my whole process with energy work as an outpouring of love for myself. And love all the time doesn't look like, oh my gosh, girl, like you're amazing. Love sometimes looks very disruptive and it looks very uncomfortable and it looks ugly.
That's very foreign to a lot of people. So what do you mean it looks ugly?
It looks ugly. Sometimes when you ask yourself and get real with yourself about certain things, and what I've encountered in unraveling the knot that is MS, there's some parts of the knot that aren't pretty. They're not nice. They don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I've had to go there. And I still go there, right? Because you're never done improving yourself. It's a journey, not a destination necessarily. And so I'm still doing, that work, but in the early stages, there was a lot of nasty stuff that, had to be pulled out. That is love. It's love for Nadya. It's love for Nadya, but it's Nadya looking at Nadya from a perspective that she's never seen herself before.
So that's really powerful, because I think one of the things that a lot of us ask ourselves is that
it is loving and nurturing. Absolutely.
How do you get to a place where you can find some power, find some control? So it's interesting to me, you went through something that was considered, it's a done deal, to now saying you have a business. And where are you currently based out of?
I'm currently based in LA, Los Angeles.
Okay.
Another gift from this work. I wanted to live in Los Angeles since I was 6 years old. I wanted to go to college in Los Angeles. And here it is, I'm in Los Angeles at 32 years old with a successful business. I mean, that blows my mind every single day.
Okay, so you're based out of LA and you have your business, and your MS, you're saying, is in remission.
Absolutely.
Now, do your symptoms, you would say, ever sort of flare up?
Excellent question.
Okay.
When I engage in things in my environment, which I know I have no business doing, what
do you mean?
I'll give you guys a prime example. Yeah. One of the things that Shweta seriously worked with me on is alcohol. I was not an alcoholic, but I love a glass of wine. And I was never really understanding why I couldn't have alcohol. That bothered me in a sense. It's not, and I want to be very clear, it's not that I had a problem with it. It's just that has never been an issue for me. So I was just very confused by that. Why can't I have alcohol? And when I got to Los Angeles, my body told me two things. I don't want to eat meat anymore, and I don't want to drink anymore. And I just told it, you've got to be out of your mind, because we eat very high quality meats. I mean, I can show you guys the very expensive receipts from them. And I said, we drink wine in this house. That's what we do. That's what we do. Yes, Dina, it is done deal.
So I want to tell you guys something. I have been vegan, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but what I want to tell you guys is I've been vegetarian since 8th grade. Okay. Now, when someone has to go vegan, just for anybody who doesn't know what vegan is, you don't have dairy products. You don't have any. You don't consume any animal products. Okay. And it is considered a more sort of alkaline lifestyle when you're going through a chronic illness, an acidic lifestyle, which is what most of the meat and soda and all of those things are very acidic.
Yes.
So this is a health sort of, it's the chemistry of your very body. So alcohol has a lot of sugar. Sugar will make your body very acidic. So it's like, kind of like, I'm not saying common sense, but it's like you work with the composition of your body.
Absolutely.
So, but for me, I had a hard time. It took me 6 months to adjust. So it sounds like, how do you think do you feel like the energy work has helped you stay disciplined? Because that's what I feel I discovered.
Absolutely. So I'll give you guys a funny story. With the meat, I was being told to stop eating the meat, but In-N-Out was one of my favorite things to do. 3x3 protein style burger, okay? Like, that's my jam. And so I could feel my body. Actually, I'm going to tell you guys, my body talks to me. So my body would tell me.
What do you mean your body talks to you?
My body will tell me I don't want to eat that.
So
I will hear that.
Do you think everybody's body talks to them?
Yes.
Okay. So
we can't hear it always necessarily.
Okay. Because I was like, is this a special thing? Do we need to know?
And I'm going to be honest with you guys, because of the energy work and because of the work with my diet and pulling out the things that my body didn't like, I now had room to hear. So I think that for all of us, we're making room to hear. When you start changing your diet, when you start eliminating things, you're just making room to hear. That's all you're doing.
I mean, you look great. I think she looks great. So she doesn't look sick to me. So whatever she's doing is obviously working. So let's ask you this. So the core of selfish revolution is being self-focused. I really like that. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel self-focus at this point has brought you sort of the shifts that you might have always wanted, but you were never able to have? Like, how do your ambitions and your dreams seem more, they're achievable? I guess that's the word. Yeah. How does that feel?
I have the tools to now go and navigate those things.
Okay.
Instead of one of the habits that I had was to consistently stay in my self-loathing.
Okay.
And to constantly focus on the obstacles that I had in front of me that I could not, that couldn't allow me success. I don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I don't acknowledge those things. Those things still bother me just like everyone else. I just have the tools now to navigate through those venues. Oh, yes. Living the true me. Thanks, Rare Dame.
So I think that's very powerful. And we'll open it up to questions in about just another 2 minutes. I just want to ask her one more question. So Nadya, I think we didn't complete the whole thing with goddess energy. So what have you learned about connecting with the goddess energy? You said love, but what else have you learned about yourself? Connecting to the goddess energy, what does that mean? Can you explain it in?
I think it means, connecting with yourself, but also asking yourself, where is the goddess in me?
Okay. What does that mean?
Where is the higher Nadya? The Nadya that you close your eyes at night and you see yourself making all these amazing moves and you see yourself doing all these amazing things. We've all visualized that person for ourselves. It's like the super nth us, right?
Okay.
And the goddess energy has allowed me to actually get in touch with attaining, seeing, touching that higher Nadya.
So can anyone get in touch? So, okay, Absolutely. Well, two things. Can men get in touch with the goddess energy?
Absolutely.
So how does it help them? Because they would think goddess is
love. I think the goddess energy is love. So regardless of your gender, sexual orientation, that love is going to bring out the best in you.
Wow.
That love is going to inspire you to be the best you. It doesn't matter what you are or what you do, you're a human being.
Okay. So the goddess energy is all about love. And it's also, I would add just one thing. It's about your intuition. It's about your feminine side, which everybody possesses. And I think what I am really fascinated is that, I do see myself sitting next to a goddess. I think she looks, like I said, she looks phenomenal. And, she's come a long way. And that's why I thought this was a very powerful topic for us to talk about, because we are all looking for answers. And sometimes, your answer might lay in energy work. It might lay in some other modality. It doesn't matter. Just till you know that there are options, you can always find help. Okay. So that's one thing I want to add. The second thing I want to say is, Nadya, what is it that you kind of want your message to be, having gone through this kind of ridiculously radical journey, if you may say so? Like, what is the one thing that you want people to sort of take away from that? And then we'll open it up for questions.
This experience has allowed me to experience my humanity in its full, raw form. And I think that that is one of the most beautiful gifts that I could have ever received. Because I think so many times we're running around trying to be the perfect human. This experience has and will continue to allow me to just be human and to figure out, navigate, learn from, embrace, love, and experience my humanity.
Okay, that's very, very powerful. Well, why don't we open it up for questions? And if you guys want to ask any questions, and you guys can on Facebook can also ask us.
Absolutely.
We have a bunch of people, so go ahead and ask us questions, you guys. I'm just gonna pause. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I did want to finish my question because you asked a really great question. When my symptoms return, and I said it's when I engage with things that I'm not supposed to do.
Okay.
So this was time number 4 that I was not supposed to go to In-N-Out, and I did it anyway because I really wanted it. So I bought my food, ate my fries. I mean, this is a good meal, you guys. This is a little TMI, so if anybody has food in front of you, I'm sorry. But literally, as I walked and left the outdoor patio of In-N-Out, my body said, "I told you not to eat that," and threw the whole thing out.
Oh my God.
As I was walking home. So that's one incident.
Jesus.
Yeah. My body literally said, "I told you not to eat that," and threw the whole thing. It was so embarrassing. I just ran away like I didn't do anything.
Jesus.
And yeah. Another time, you guys, after my body had said we're not drinking wine, I decided to have a whole glass of wine to myself because I thought that was a good idea. I had pain from my spine to the top of my neck for about 20 minutes after that. And it was not like a high pain. It was like, "Argh!" Because my body was angry because it told me not to do that. So that's the only time that I experience symptoms, when my body is letting me know you're not acting right. It's more of an alarm clock. Gina said rejected. Exactly. It's gross.
I think, we obviously don't have the hours and hours that I think Nadya and I can really get into a lot of the stuff that we've seen. But this was a really good introduction. So if you guys want to ask any questions, go for it. We're here for another 15 minutes. Anywhere if you guys want to ask on Facebook or here, that's completely fine. Go ahead and unmute yourself. If you need me to unmute you, I can do that.
Yeah. If you want me to tell you any stories about anything, I'm more than willing and open to tell you guys anything that you want to ask. So don't be ashamed or afraid to ask. I just told you about my projectile vomiting and In-N-Out. We're not shy.
I don't think we're shy.
We're not shy.
No, we're not.
At all.
Hey, Nadya, so after you decided to go, eat cleanly, how soon did you see the results, with your symptoms?
I would say within 2 to a month, I started seeing huge shifts. The first shift I saw, RT, my body felt at peace. It felt like I had never felt like that before.
Yeah.
I had always dealt with anxiety in the morning, and I started waking up in the morning and I didn't have anxiety. That was the first huge sign. Acne. Always battled with acne. My skin was amazingly clear. I've never had clear skin like that in my life. And then I stopped snoring. That was another huge thing. I cut dairy out completely and I stopped snoring. And I think that was a huge benefit to me cutting out dairy. My body just started to have more energy. And I didn't understand where the energy was coming from. I would usually get it from coffee, from sweet drinks. Again, contributing to a weak environment. I ate a lot of sugar. And once I started cutting that out, my body started to calm down. It was almost like it was decompressing.
Abhishek, you want to ask the question, my love?
Yeah, Nadia, quick question. As you were switching your diet, was your body just taking it in instantly? Like, was it easy or was it difficult at first?
For me, it was difficult at first. My body loved the food I was giving it. From Nadia mental state, she was having a really difficult time because I had never had to do that for myself. I had never cooked really for myself. My kitchen was like an extra storage container in my house. So it was a lot of lifestyle shifts going on. But my body responded very, very well. Very, very well. It liked it.
You're going cutting one thing at a time. Dina's asking a question.
I would recommend Dina cutting out one thing at a time. My body and the way in which it rolls, it just likes full court press at all times.
Do you?
But I would recommend one at a time.
Well, Dina, I will add this. If you are somebody who is already vegetarian or heavily vegetarian, I would probably just give it up, just because it's too hard to not. If you're eating meat, then I would go with what Nadia is saying.
Yeah.
But if you're mostly vegetarian, I would take your time. And also, guys, I'm going to say this. It's not a very popular opinion on a lot of vegans, but the dairy is the part that I always recommend my clients cut out. Okay? The cheese, the milk, the yogurt.
Yeah.
The meat, if you want to have seafood, you have seafood. Like, that's fine. It's what your body needs. But
yes. Well, Tina, that was my first huge no. No gluten. I don't play with the gluten.
And so I feel like, if you want to make it like, if you are mostly vegetarian, then I would say cut out the dairy and cheese. Like, start off with that and then move towards the meat. But personally, I have never seen really a big problem with meat if it is grown well and raised well. Unless, you're going through a very radical shift like how she did. But I think for a lot of people, veganism has become a fad and they're not really researching it for them. And so I think that's very necessary. I think in a lot of cases, people are switching over because it's the right reason. But it's for a lot of people, they should probably still consume some meat.
Yeah, dairy.
Yes.
I stepped down, like, even when I was doing dairy-free, Dina, like, my doctor had it so that maybe once every 2 months I would have, like, a pizza sprinkled with a little bit of feta cheese. Just because dairy is such a huge, I think, shift for a lot of people. Yeah. Huge shift.
I know I love cheese. Like, it was
ice cream, cheese, everything.
Also, don't expect it to be easy. I think that's one thing I just once I realized this was not supposed to be easy. This is like you're learning to discipline your tongue. So you cannot just say, oh, this is going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But, it's worth it. I do think it does pay off. You do have more energy. I do have definitely a lot of energy. So I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you're welcome. I think we have another question.
What healing work did you actually engage in? There was a lot. We did.
I think part of it is because we're talking about energy work, so they want to know, like, I'll just take a crack at it and then you can, I think this is what I tell people. I always encourage everybody to go to different modalities in the sense of that complements your basic fundamental understanding of who you are. So I will tell people to go to acupuncture. I'll tell people to go to chiropractor. I'll tell people to, even if they need to go get a Reiki healing. The energy work that we do, or the work that I practice with Kali, is all about understanding who you are at your core. So you can take that understanding and then apply it to everything else. And it does do that. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do one thing and it's going to just be the be all and end all. That doesn't make any sense. But understanding energy work will radically shift your paradigm and your framework, for sure. There's no ways about it. And then having a guide who knows what they're doing is huge. It's huge because, somebody who's trained in how to get you to that point is incredibly important. So it helps cut down on time. So that's kind of like my take on what I think energy work really, really does.
Same.
But do you want to, so how do you feel like How do you feel like the others, like eating, not like eating clean, all of that? Do you feel like I think it had to be all of it.
It has to, it literally plays into all of it.
Yeah.
It plays into all of it. There's no way that I could start seeing truths about myself while I'm putting crap into my body.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people want this answer. They want to just do one thing. But I'll tell you this, I think everything stems from energy.
Everything stems from everything.
Yeah. And I feel like, just because I eat well, but I'm not dealing with my emotions, I still have problems.
Yep.
If I'm just dealing with my emotions and I'm not taking any action, we still have problems. So it's not like that. It's a very holistic sort of experience.
Yes.
So I think rare, right?
Rare Dane.
Yeah, I trust that.
Oh, yeah.
Holistic, exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Holistic approach.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you guys have any other questions?
You guys want to hear any funny stories?
Yeah.
Me having temper tantrums going vegan. That's several.
Yeah. That's another thing. Allow yourself, allow yourself the space to have that fit and to say, I don't want to do this, but I know it's going to be good for me. Do this, something's good for you. Don't want to do it.
I'll share a story with you guys. When I first got my sheet of directions from my naturopath, and I was going after our first session, and I was going to now shop for food that was going to respond positively to my body, there wasn't any room for wiggle because my body already was in crisis. So the whole point of me acting so fast was to decompress, bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I go into Whole Foods, and I'm one of these people at Whole Foods that think that I bought a organic pizza and organic cake, so therefore I'm healthy. That was my understanding of health back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked around the store, and I'm hungry, you guys. I can't find anything because I don't know how to shop for this new lifestyle that I have. And I think I'm going to get chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets fix everything. Go to get the chicken nuggets, realize the chicken nuggets are covered in gluten because they're breaded, and I start having a complete breakdown. I started crying. And there was a guy at Whole Foods who saw me having my temper tantrum, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm hungry." And I kind of gave him like a little synopsis of what was going on. I said, "I have to shop for this new diet." And he took me around the store, and he helped me. So my reason for sharing that is always be honest with how you feel.
Yeah.
Just because you're eating healthy doesn't mean you like it. Just because you're drinking a green smoothie, good, Dina, exactly. Just because you're eating something doesn't mean it's awesome. In that moment, it can suck. And it's okay to say that because now you're giving yourself permission to acknowledge that. And you're also making room for maybe you to actually find what was I saying? To find an option that works for you.
And also I think
a healing option that works for you.
And I think also when you do energy work, you realize that, yes, it's about the food, but you might get a break from it. You might have a traveling lifestyle. I know Nadya travels. So part of it is you cannot always have everything at the snap of your fingertip. So you learn to really protect your energy. And, we'll get into that in another call. But what is something that you want to, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and post them. We'll stick around for another few minutes, and then we will be hopping off. But if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask. And we will wait just another second. Okay. So Nadya, what do you want people to know about energy work and your journey?
I want people to know that this journey is the most rewarding thing that you will do for yourself. I want people to know that it's not all love and light and roses and happiness, because it's not. Nothing in life is like that. Mm-hmm. But I do want them to know that because you go through the uncomfortable parts, you are allowing yourself to abundance of that love, light, happiness, peace. Mm-hmm. I feel like in my 32 years now, I'm moving into peace in my life, and that's amazing for me. So just know that this journey may not look exactly how you pictured it to look, but my God, it is the most rewarding thing that you'll do.
Okay, guys. So Nadya, why don't you give them why don't you tell them how to find you, and then that way they can
so you guys, you can find me at selfishrevolution.com. Also my Facebook business page, Selfish Revolution. Join the private Facebook community. Also like the page, get on there. You can ask me any questions that you have. I'm actually going to need you guys' help because I am outreaching for this amazing opportunity, and I'm going to ask you guys and tag you if you can help me propel me on that journey. You have to vote. I'm gonna figure it out and send that to you guys as well. So yeah, that is how I would love to connect with you via Selfish Revolution. And like I said, feel free to ask me any questions on there about health. Even if I don't have a post up about health, I would love to answer them for you. I do a Wellness Wednesday segment where I talk about how to be functional with these healthy hacks and with these, my new journey of moving into veganism. So I love to share what I find and share products that I find and my journey in a very honest and real way, because I just think if you're not going to be honest about it, what's the point?
I agree. And I think, this has been a phenomenal experience for me because we're now talking about things that have been sort of happening in my private clientele more openly so that, more people can really understand that there are benefits to this. And also we've been guided by colleagues. So we're really grateful that each one of you could be here. We'll put up the replay for anyone who couldn't watch this live. And, again, feel free to ask us questions. Feel free to just really engage in what is going to work for you. And again, guys, thank you so much. So much love to each one of you. Thank you for joining, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you guys. I'll see you next time.
Bye.